When you hear the word anime, I wonder what the first thought is that comes into your head. Some people are addicts, they buy costumes, they go to conventions, but others, they consider it childish. They're put off by the thought of having to read subtitles, and many other people fall somewhere in between. I've been watching anime since I was about 16, and I've watched a whole spectrum of different shows. Like others before, I'm hoping that I can inspire you to try something new, to dispel any misconceptions you have, and point you to some great shows that are a real gateway with which to start. This is an intro to anime. One of anime's greatest strengths has to be the wide variety of different genres that get covered, not to mention the incredible music that often backdrops scenes to add that extra bit of tension or that slower, gentler moment. You've got the classic genres: romance, action, adventure, mystery, thriller, comedy, sports. But even within each of these, the options actually run really deep. Let's take romance. Romance is always about the characters, whether that be the girl who stubbornly won't admit her feelings, or watching the couple grow together, get married and have children. A personal favourite of mine is about an author and a voice actress who go different ways to pursue their careers, but promise they'll be together when they've achieved their dreams. Moving on to action, and shonen anime are renowned for their fast-paced fight scenes, whether that's the ninja battles in Naruto, the incredible sword fights that appear in Attack on Titan, or quite literally any fight when Saitama from One Punch Man gets serious. Shoutouts have to go to Joseph Joestar bringing a Coke bottle to a gunfight. But it's not just cool fight scenes. With every great villain, there are great backstories, and every challenge brings growth to the characters. Shonen anime are often very long with vast worlds, long-term plots and supporting casts who don't just help move the story along, but get fleshed out in such depth that we begin to understand their motivations almost to the same degree as the main characters we've been following. I don't want this video to be too long, so I won't describe every genre in depth, but the last I'll mention has got to be the psychological thriller, the most famous of which is probably Deathnote, and that clash of competing ideals. When Light Yagami receives the power to execute any person on the planet by simply writing their name into his notebook, he decides to rid the world of all criminals to create a utopian new world of only the morally elite. Opposing him from the Japanese police force is L, a genius detective shrouded in mystery. The mental battle between these two is enthralling. While Deathnote is a show some of you may already be familiar with, or at least have heard of, another show with similar strategic battles, which I believe might be even better, is Code Geass. Code Geass is probably the best ending of any show I've seen, and follows the story of Lelouch, a commoner who we meet beating the rich at chess to earn some cash. In a world where Britannia has occupied the entire world bar a small section of Japan, Lelouch joins the rebel army. Using guerrilla warfare, they fight back against their occupiers. Appearing in a mask with a fake name Zero, he quickly takes over as strategic leader of the rebels. What neither side realises though, is Lelouch is the Emperor's son, and 17th in line for the Britannian throne. The secret to any great show has always been the characters. You don't watch Friends for the day-to-day troubles the cast get up to, we watch because we want to see their relationships evolve. I want to argue that anime characters are actually more fleshed out than your typical Western shows. Considering each episode is only 20 minutes long, the depth of character development which happens in the top shows is amazing. Nearly every character will have a backstory, including a fair amount of the supporting cast. On top of that, if you take the cast of some of the larger anime, like One Piece, Naruto or My Hero Academia, the sheer number of characters that exist in their worlds is mind-boggling. Using the example of Friends again, when you're asked who your favourite character is of the 230 episodes they aired, your options are somewhat limited. You've got the main 6 and then some of the recurring side characters. But let's be generous and say there's about 20 characters total that people would honestly choose from. Not to mention, you'd really question those who vote for very minor characters, like Ross's parents. Comparatively, a classic shonen anime could easily have 50 characters that get multiple votes on a poll. How often would we say we love the antagonists in Western shows? Often they're recurring tropes, or the villain changes each season. Off the top of my head, I can't really even think of any truly iconic TV antagonists. Anime antagonists, though, are cut from a different cloth. You've got psychopath villains who just want to watch the world burn, or the genius rival who makes you really go, wow, how'd he work that one out? But as I said before with the depth given to the supporting cast, some of the best characters are both villains and allies at the same time. characters who drift through the show with an ideology completely separate from everyone else. Anime art styles really benefit character design too. If the artist wants to make a character feel trustworthy and safe, they're drawn with round, soft shapes. And if there's someone scary, you get sharp edges. It seems simple enough, but in the hands of masters you get phenomenal storytelling, with characters almost feeling more real and understandable than if they were adapted into a real-life screenplay. It's no wonder that attempts to reenact big anime shows tend to flop when people act them out. It's just too hard to convey the same range and depth of emotions as a well-drawn piece of art can. And this can be anything. It's not just the tough, gritty scenes of two foes slugging it out, but also the light-hearted jokes, or the awkward embarrassment of someone realising they forgot their umbrella on a rainy day. Lastly, before I give some recommendations, I think the format of anime is great. Each episode's usually about 20 minutes long, and each season has a continuing story that moves through it. Shows can be as small as 12 episodes or as large as 400. Having a continuing thread which keeps the story moving towards some long-term goal means that nearly every episode finishes on some sort of a cliffhanger. And as I've seen with my girlfriend recently, as she's been dipping her toes into the world of anime, cliffhangers get you hooked. Now before I give some recommendations, I have to give a shout out to my girlfriend for being the trial run to a lot of these shows. Over this past year I've slowly been introducing her to anime, as someone who not only hadn't seen any, but also approached anime with the same apprehension that most people do before they realise what they're missing. I've tried to recommend shows that cross a few different genres and themes. Chances are there's one that sounds interesting enough for you to start, and they should all be good in dubbed or subtitled formats. But having said that, if none sound that appealing to you, do drop me a message or put a comment on the video, and I'll do my best to find something more suitable to your taste. The first show I want to recommend is a little sad, and if you're a crier, well, let's just say you've been warned. It's a romance centered around music called Your Lie in April, or Shigatsu wa Kimi no Usu. The story's main character is a boy called Arima Kosei, a child prodigy pianist who dominated the competition from a young age. However, when his mother, who was also his instructor, passes away, he loses the ability to musically hear his piano. Viewing the world in just black and white, Arima struggles to find joy in music anymore. This all changes though when he comes across the free-spirited Kaori playing music in the park. Kaori is a fun-loving, joy-filled violin player who challenges Arima to change the way he sees music and break free from the structure and rigidity that were chaining him to his past. The music in this show is absolutely beautiful and the story is heartwarming to watch. The side characters of Tsubaki and Wataru add lots as well, providing love and friendship along the way. I really recommend the show, but do bring some tissues. The second show I want to recommend is one you may have already heard of. Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is one of the most famous anime shows out there, at least among more Western audiences. It's an action-adventure style show, but with some occasional gritty and darker moments. Edward and Alphonse Elric are brothers who live in a world in which you can harness the property of objects using a sciencey magic called alchemy. When tragedy strikes and their mother is lost to an incurable disease, the young brothers commit the ultimate taboo in an attempt to bring her back from the dead. The process fails, and as payment for using this type of alchemy, Edward loses his left leg and Alphonse loses his whole body. Trying to save his brother, Edward seals Alphonse's soul into a suit of armour, but must pay the further cost of his right arm. Having now grown up, the boys become state alchemists, working for the military on various missions, but all the while searching for the Philosopher's Stone, an item said to have the power to return their bodies back to them. It's hard to fault Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood as a show. Once you've been introduced to the world and the characters after the first few episodes, the story breaks into a run and you just get swept up along with it. The characters use alchemy in different ways depending on their personalities and fighting styles, and the whole cast is so well fleshed out. The show also does a great job of hitting hard in serious moments, but contrasts them with more jokey, silly moments. It's a bit longer than Your Lie in April, but definitely worth the time. For my last recommendation, I was going to give a psychological thriller, but since I already discussed a fair bit about Deathnote and Code Geass, I thought I'd go a different route. An honourable mention has to be the Hunter x Hunter 2011 remake, which for me is an easy 10 out of 10 show, and probably my favourite anime of all time. But it has nearly 150 episodes, and so for some of you, that might be an overwhelming prospect to start with. The recommendation I've gone for is Haikyuu, a show my girlfriend got completely hooked on. Haikyuu is a fast-paced volleyball anime, which had a significant role of the resurgence of the sport in Japan. The story follows Hinata, a short middle school kid who takes up volleyball after watching an iconic Japanese player on the national team nicknamed the Small Giant. Having no real volleyball team at his school, he gets a ragtag group of kids together to enter a competition. In their first round, they draw one of the powerhouse schools, headed by the king of the court, Kageyama Tobio. After a crushing defeat, Hinata vows that one day he will surpass Kageyama, and when he moves to high school, he's shocked to find that he's joined the same high school as his rival. This show is very feel-good. As Kageyama and Hinata slowly learn to play with one another as teammates and stop fighting, you can see the respect they have for one another slowly growing. The show portrays volleyball quite accurately, but it's not just for sports fans to watch. Haikyuu's cast covers such a range of the population, and it's quite easy to find a character on one of the many teams we meet through the show, in which you can relate. Unlike most shows, where the opposing team are just an obstacle our heroes have to overcome, in Haikyuu you really learn about the other teams they face, and it means at the end of each game you can really see just how hard each team has fought to try and win. Even when our heroes win, you can't help but feel a little sad for the other team, because their effort levels deserve to win just the same. Whichever show you do end up watching, do try to watch it in a way that gives credit to the creators. Many of the shows mentioned in this video can be found on Netflix or Prime, and if you can't find them on either of those, then Crunchyroll is my recommendation of where to look. You can watch the episodes for free with some ads, or pay a cheap monthly subscription to get full access. Thanks for watching this video, all the best now, God bless, and peace out.